Hey there, it's Zaid. Today, we're diving deep into a story that shook Denver to its core. We're asking the tough question, why did Lyndon McLeod snap? Join me as we unravel the threads of this tragedy and seek answers to the chaos that unfolded. On December 27, 2021, Denver was gripped by a series of events that seemed like they were ripped straight from a crime thriller, but the horror was all too real. Lyndon McLeod, a 47-year-old man with extremist views and a history of menacing behavior, embarked on a shooting spree that spanned across Denver and Lakewood, Colorado. In less than an hour, McLeod fatally shot 5 people and wounded 2 others before being stopped by the brave actions of Lakewood police agent Ashley Ferris, who was also wounded in the exchange. McLeod wasn't an unknown entity to law enforcement. He had been on their radar before. Denver Police Chief Paul Payson acknowledged that McLeod had been investigated in the past, which raises haunting questions about the signs that might have been missed. McLeod's background was a tapestry of red flags, including a 2012 arrest for pointing a gun at coworkers. His writings, which disturbingly previewed the attacks, have become a key piece of the investigation, providing a window into his dark and twisted thoughts. The Rampage left a community in shock, trying to piece together how such a tragedy could unfold. It's a complex puzzle that involves McLeod's radical ideologies, his previous threats, and the chilling premonitions found in his writing. As we delve into this case, we'll explore the depths of McLeod's psyche, the societal factors that may have fueled his actions, and the stories of the lives he cut short. Lyndon McLeod wasn't just another name in the news. He was a man on the edge. What led to his breaking point? We'll explore McLeod's past, his struggles, and the red flags that may have foreshadowed the devastating events. Lyndon McLeod, a 47-year-old with a complex and troubled background, became the center of a violent tragedy that left Denver in shock. His descent into violence can be traced through a series of personal and professional failures, as well as a history of extremist views and psychiatric episodes. McLeod's life was marked by a string of business failures, which he openly discussed in a 2019 YouTube interview with host Subi. These failures seem to have left him embittered and may have contributed to his radicalization. McLeod lived a life that many would consider unconventional, spending much of his last 5 years in a remote shipping container, which he had converted into a living space. This isolation may have exacerbated his detachment from society and fueled his extremist views. His social media presence and self-published writings reveal a person who held far-right and misogynistic views, which were investigated by the Denver police in connection with previous threats he had made. The day of the Rampage, December 27, 2021. Was not just a sudden outburst but the culmination of years of building tension and warning signs. McLeod's actions were premeditated, as evidenced by his writings that disturbingly previewed the attacks. The question that haunts everyone is, how did a man with such a known history of menacing behavior manage to slip through the cracks? As we delve deeper into McLeod's past, we uncover a dark and twisted path that led to one of Denver's darkest days. It's a path marked by warning signs, cries for help, and a society's struggle to understand and manage the complexities of mental health and radical ideologies. This section of our story seeks to understand the man behind the tragedy, the breaking point that led to his final, fatal actions, and the lessons we must learn to prevent future tragedies. Minute by minute, we'll reconstruct the day McLeod unleashed terror on the streets of Denver, from the first shot to the last. What can the timeline tell us about his state of mind and his ultimate motive? The timeline of December 27, 2021 is a chilling sequence of events that reveals the calculated nature of Lyndon McLeod's shooting spree. The Rampage began near East 1st Avenue and Broadway in Denver, where the first shots rang out. McLeod, a local business owner, had meticulously planned his targets, all of which had significant meaning in his life. At 5:25 p.m., Denver police received the first report of a shooting at a business that McLeod was familiar with. Within minutes, the police were flooded with calls as McLeod moved from one location to another, leaving a trail of violence in his wake. His targets were not random. They were connected to his past grievances and perceived enemies. McLeod's movements were swift and deliberate, suggesting a man who had lost all regard for human life. He moved through the city with a chilling precision, leaving communities reeling from the sudden and brutal attacks. The timeline shows a man who had planned this day, who had decided that this was the moment his rage would be unleashed on the world. The final confrontation occurred when McLeod was confronted by Lakewood police agent Ashley Ferris. Despite being wounded, Agent Ferris managed to return fire, fatally wounding McLeod and bringing an end to the bloodshed. The timeline of McLeod's spree is not just a record of his actions but a map of his descent into madness. As we piece together the events of that day, we're left with a haunting question: what drives a man to commit such acts of violence? What can we learn from this timeline that might prevent such tragedies in the future? In the wake of the Rampage, a city is left reeling. How has Denver coped with the aftermath? We'll look at the community's response, the tributes to the victims, and the ongoing healing process. The aftermath of Lyndon McLeod's shooting spree left the Denver community in a state of profound shock and grief. The city, known for its vibrant culture and tight-knit community, was forced to confront the reality of a tragedy that seemed to come from one of its own. In the days following the events, Denverites came together in various ways to support each other. Vigils were held across the city, with residents gathering to honor the lives lost. These vigils became spaces for communal mourning and solidarity, with people of all backgrounds sharing their grief and offering support to the victims' families. Local businesses and community centers opened their doors to provide counseling services and organized fundraisers to help cover the funeral costs and medical bills of those affected. The city's response was a testament to its resilience and the strength of its community spirit. The Denver Police Department and other law enforcement agencies involved received widespread support for their swift action, particularly highlighting the bravery of Agent Ashley Ferris, who was injured in the confrontation with McLeod. Her courage was celebrated as a beacon of hope and strength in the face of such senseless violence. As the city continues to heal, there's a palpable determination to understand the root causes of such events and to prevent them in the future. Discussions around mental health, gun control, and the importance of community vigilance have come to the forefront. Denver is a city in mourning, but also a city that is determined to emerge stronger and more united from this tragedy. Law enforcement has been piecing together the puzzle of McLeod's actions. We'll delve into the investigation's findings, the evidence gathered, and what it reveals about the reasons behind the spree. The investigation into Lyndon McLeod's shooting spree has been a complex endeavor, with law enforcement officials unraveling a grim narrative that led to the tragic events of December 27, 2021. McLeod, who was 47 at the time of the attacks, was known to at least 4 of the 5 victims, suggesting a personal vendetta rather than random acts of violence. A significant part of the investigation has focused on McLeod's writings. He authored a book titled Sanction, self-published in 2018, which disturbingly detailed events similar to the shooting. This book has become a critical piece of evidence, as it seems to provide insight into McLeod's mindset and possible motivations for the attacks. Further complicating the investigation is the fact that McLeod had been on law enforcement's radar prior to the spree. There were 2 previous investigations into McLeod's behavior, one in 2020 and another in early 2021, but neither resulted in state or criminal charges. This has raised questions about whether the tragedy could have been prevented. The Denver Police Department has since launched a review of how they handled the tips they received about McLeod in the years leading up to the shooting. This introspection is part of a broader effort to understand the missed signals and red flags that might have indicated McLeod's potential for violence. Investigators have also been examining McLeod's social media presence, where he glorified guns and expressed misogynistic views. This digital footprint is providing law enforcement with a better understanding of McLeod's beliefs and the possible ideological underpinnings of his actions. As we continue to follow the investigation, we are left with the haunting realization that signs of impending violence can often be found in plain sight. The challenge remains to interpret these signs correctly and to act in time to prevent future tragedies. As we conclude this somber journey, we reflect on the lessons learned. How can we prevent such tragedies in the future? This is Zaid, urging you to ponder, discuss, and remember, because understanding the past is our best tool for safeguarding the future. The story of Lyndon McLeod is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the complex interplay of factors that can lead an individual down a path of destruction. As we reflect on this case, we're confronted with the uncomfortable truth that there are no easy answers or quick fixes. It's a multifaceted problem that requires a multifaceted solution, involving mental health support, responsible gun ownership, and community vigilance. We must ask ourselves tough questions about the societal pressures and personal crises that can lead to such catastrophic outcomes. We must be willing to engage in difficult conversations about the signs of potential violence and how to intervene before it's too late. And most importantly, we must remember the victims, not as mere footnotes in a tragic story, but as individuals whose lives were unjustly cut short. If this story has impacted you, please like, share, and engage. Your interaction helps us delve deeper into these stories and, hopefully, prevent them. Subscribe for more true crime investigations. Stay curious, stay aware, and let's seek the truth together. Your engagement with this content is more than just a metric. It's a statement that these issues matter to you. By liking and sharing, you're helping to spread awareness and foster a community that is informed and proactive. By subscribing, you're joining a movement of individuals committed to understanding the darker aspects of our reality, not to sensationalize them, but to learn from them and to honor those we've lost by working to create a safer world. This is Zaid, signing off, but not stepping back. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, keep the conversation going. And never forget that the past holds the keys to our future.